Good morning, dear students. Once again, welcome back to the English literature class. Today, we are continuing with the play. Title of the play is The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. Act 3, Scene 1, lines 1 to 51. Before we move to the scene, let's have an introduction to it. In this scene, the plot begins to develop towards a crisis. The rumors about Antonio's shipwreck and his losses become more definite, and so does Shylock's thirst for revenge. So, in the first part of the scene, we are discussing about Antonio's loss. He lost his ship in the sea, and there Shylock is becoming very happy because he can satisfy his revenge. So, that's the first point we will be discussing in the first part of the scene. Secondly, Shylock, distracted by his daughter's betrayal and taunted by Salanio, makes a powerful speech about common universal humanity. So Shylock is already in a pain due to his daughter's betrayal because she eloped with Lorenzo. And at the same time, Salanio is ridiculing him, making fun on him. And there Shylock is giving a powerful speech about common universal humanity. That's the second point we will be discussing. And finally, Shylock is simultaneously grieved and elated. Grieved because of his daughter's deceit and elated because of Antonio's loss of ships and his being bounded to pay the forfeiture. So, Shylock is simultaneously grieved. Simultaneously means at the same time he is becoming happy as well as sad. He is sad because of his daughter's betrayal and he is becoming very happy because of Antonio's loss. So these are the three main points which we will be discussing in this particular scene. So without wasting time, let's move to the class. Act 3, Scene 1, lines 1 to 51. Venice, a street. So this particular incident is taking place at a street in Venice. Enter Salanio and Severino. So those two characters are being appeared on the stage. Salanio, he is starting the conversation. Now, what news on the Realtor? Realtor means it's a place where the business dealings are being taken place. So Salanio is asking to his friend Severino, do you have any news from Realtor? There Severino says, why? It leaves there unchecked that Antonio hath a ship of rich laddie wrecked on the narrow seas, the Godwins I think they call the place. Why? Well, yet it leaves there unchecked. Without any doubt, it is clear or it is reported or it is informed that Antonio hath a ship of rich laddie. So Antonio's one ship which was having a lot of rich laddie. Laddie means cargoes. With a lot of rich cargoes wrecked on the narrow seas. Wrecked means ruined or destroyed. Okay, so Antonio's ship which was carrying a lot of rich cargoes wrecked on the narrow seas, destroyed on the narrow seas. The good winds, I think they call the place. The particular location where Antonio lost his ship, they named that particular location as Godwins. I think they call the place. They call the place Godwins. A very dangerous flat and fatal where the carcasses of many a tall ship lie buried. As they say, if my gossip report be an honest woman of her word. So it's a very dangerous flat. Flat means sandbank where a lot of sands are being deposited. So it's a very dangerous place where the carcasses means shipwreck of many a tall ship lie buried. Tall here means fair, good ship. So it's a very dangerous place. Even good ships are being wrecked there, lie buried. So if we search the place, we can see even the remains of good ships, very good ship which wrecked very recently. That's what is meant by fair ship. Even recently, there were number of ships buried or wrecked there and lie buried at the bottom of the sea. As they say, if my gossip report be an honest woman of her word. So, if we consider this particular news something like a talkative woman's rumor, if we believe to that, and it is saying that it's a very dangerous place where a lot of good fine ships were wrecked. So it's a very dangerous place, and at that particular place the ship of Antonio's ship wrecked, and that's what is the news, that's what is the latest news from real town. There Salanio says, I would she were as lying a gossip in that, as ever nabbed ginger, or made her neighbors believe she wept for the death of a third husband. So, where Salanio says, I wish she were as lying. So, I just wish to consider it as a lying, a gossip, or it is something like a rumor, in that as Evernabbed Ginger or made her neighbors believe she wept for the death of a third husband. It is something like a lady who nabbed means chewed. A lady chewed Ginger and made her neighbors believe she wept for the death of a third husband. So a lady, when her third husband died, she chewed Ginger and made her neighbors believe that she was weeping because of her husband's death. But it is true, without any slips of prolixity or crossing the plain highway of talk, that the good Antonio, the honest Antonio, of that I had a title good enough to keep his name company. Here there is a phrase used. The phrase is without any slips of prolixity or crossing the plain highway of talk, which means without talking much, without any slips of prolixity, without talking much or crossing the plain highway of talk, or beating around the bush, without beating around the bush. So, without giving a detailed explanation or without giving a useless explanation, but it is true that the good Antonio, the honest Antonio, so he is using a few adjectives, good Antonio, the honest Antonio, that I had a title good enough to keep his name company. Is these adjectives are enough? If these titles are good enough to keep his name company? If these titles are worthy enough to be added to his name? So there Salanio is continuing his conversation. By the time Salarino says, come, the full stop. Okay, just stop it. Just make an end to your talk. You are talking very long. You are talking too much. So just make a stop. Come, the full stop. Salanio says, how what says thou? Why the end is, he hath lost a ship. Well, what says thou? What are you saying? What says thou? What are you saying? Why the end is? Why I have to stop? He hath lost a ship. He lost a ship, and I am coming to speak about it. Then why are you stopping me from speaking about it? He hath lost a ship. He lost a ship. There Salarino says, I would it might prove the end of his loss. I just wish that what he lost, it must be the end of his loss. Hereafter, he should not lose anything. So I would it might prove the end of his losses. Salanium. Let me say Amen betimes, lest the devil cross my prayer, for here he comes in the likeness of a Jew. Salanio says, let me say Amen. Amen means, the meaning of the word Amen means be it so. So whatever it is, whatever you told, let it be. Let me say Amen. Betimes, lest the devil cross my prayer. So according to the ancient belief that if we pray something, we have to say Amen at the end. Otherwise, the devil will cross the prayer and the prayer will become useless. It will lose its fruit or its result. So that's why Salanio says, whatever you have told, let it be over, or that's enough. Let me say, I am in that. The devil, otherwise the devil will cross my prayer. For here he comes in the likeness of Jew. So Salanio says, here there comes the Jew. Who is the Jew? Shiloh. And there Salanio is saying he is the devil. Here he comes in the likeness, in the form of a Jew. The devil is coming in the shape of a Jew, which means Shylock. Enter Shylock. To the scene, there comes Shylock. How now, Shylock? What news among the merchants? There, Salanio is asking, how are you, Shylock? What news among the merchants? What news is going on among the merchants at Rialto? There, Shylock is saying, you knew none so well as you, of my daughter's flight. So you know what is going on. None so well, more than any other person or more than any other people, you know very well what news is going on. None so well as you. Nobody knows better than you of my daughter's flight, of my daughter's elopement. You know it very well, and more than any other person, you know about my daughter and the act what she did. Severino. That's certain. I, for my part, knew the tailor that made the wings she flew withal. There, Salarino says he is just having fun on Shylock. That's why he says, that's certain. Of course, we know what had happened with your daughter and what she did. I, for my part, from my side, I can say that I knew the tailor that made the wings she flew with that. So I know even the tailor who made the wings by which she flew. Actually, he is just ridiculing Shylock. Salanio. And Shylock, for his own part, knew the bird was fledged, and then it is the complexion of them all to leave the dam. So there Salanio is making a statement. And Shylock, for his own part, which means Shylock was knowing it very well that the bird was fledged. Fledged means ready to fly. So Shylock was knowing enough that his daughter is grown enough, that her age is very dangerous. So he was knowing it very well, and then it is the complexion of them all to leave the dam. Dam means mother. So complexion means it's a law of the nature. It's a law of the nature. So it's a law of the nature that all the children will leave their mother once they grown up according to the age. Once they grown enough, they will leave their mother. That's a natural law. And Shylock was knowing it very well. Shylock says, she is damned for it. She is cursed, or she will be condemned for what she has done. She is condemned for it. She is damned for it. Salarino. That's certain, if the devil may be her judge. Who is the devil here? Shylock. So that's why Salarino says, of course, what you are saying is correct. If you are her judge, if the devil may be her judge, because we have already seen, devil is the word used here by Salanio, which is referring to Shylock. So that's why here Salarino says, that's of course what you are saying is correct. If devil may be her judge, if the devil is her judge, definitely she will be damned for what she has done. If you are her judge, definitely she will be damned for it. And Shylock says, my own flesh and blood to rebel. So finally, my own flesh and my own blood started to protest against me. Or my own flesh and my own blood betrayed me. So with a lot of pain, Shylock says it. There, Salarino again making fun on him. There is more difference between thy flesh and hers than between jet and ivory. Jet and ivory means black and white. Both are contradiction. One is opposite to the other. Black is the opposite of white and white is the opposite of black. Both are contradiction. So here Salarino says, of course, there is a factor between you and her. There is more difference between thy flesh and hers. So your flesh and her flesh is something like black and white. Both are different, contradiction in nature. More between your bloods than there is between red wine and Rhenish. Red wine, of course, as you know, red in color. Rhenish means it's a kind of wine, expensive white German wine. So the color of Rhenish is white in color, and the red wine, of course, its color is red. So your blood is like red, but her blood is something like Rhenish, expensive white wine. So that's why Salarino says your flesh is something like black and her flesh is something like white, pure, good in nature. And your blood is something like red wine. Of course, red in color, your blood is having red color, but her blood is something like reddish, which is very expensive and delicious, and white in color, pure in color. So there is a lot of difference between your flesh and your blood with the flesh and blood of your daughter. But tell us, do you hear whether Antonio have had any loss at sea or no? So do you have any information? Have you heard something about Antonio's loss at the sea or no? So do you have any idea about, is there something bad had happened with Antonio or not? Where Shylock is saying, there I have another bad match, a bankrupt, a prodigal, who dares care show his head on the realtor, a beggar that was used to come so smug upon the mart. So here Shylock is speaking something very bad against Antonio. What he says, there I have another bad match. Okay, again, already I have lost something with my daughter, and again he says, I have again one more loss, bad match. I have a very poor business deals, a bankrupt, a prodigal. So with a bankrupt and a prodigal, prodigal means spendthrift, which means a person who is spending his money without any thinking, in a reckless way. So here I have another business deal with a bankrupt, a prodigal, who dares care show his head on the realtor, who can badly show his face on the realtor because he lost everything. Now he is a bankrupt. So for him, it's a matter of shame. A beggar that was used to come so smug upon the bar. A beggar that was used to come so smug upon. Smug upon means self-satisfied. Okay. So his face was having some kinds of satisfaction. He was coming to the marketplace or to the realtor or to the mart with a smiling face. But right now he is a beggar. Okay. So that's what Shylock is saying about Antonio. Again he says, let him look to his bond. Since he lost everything in the sea, let him look to his bond. He was wont to call me usurer. Wont means habitual. So he was having a habit to call me usurer. Usurer means a person who lends money at an unfair rate of interest. A person who is giving money to someone with a high rate of interest. So he was having a habit to call me an unfair person because I was lending money to others for high rate of interest. So he was calling me usurer. Let him look to his bond. Again, Shylock is reminding, let him look to his bond. He was wont to lend money for a Christian courtesy. So he was having a habit to lend money, to give money for a Christian courtesy. According to the Christian courtesy, the Christian teaching says that we must lend money to someone without taking interest. So he was a man who was following the Christian customs. He was giving or lending money to others without taking interest. And there again Shylock is saying, let him look to his bond. The same person about whom you are mentioning, about the same person I am speaking right now. He was a man who was having a lot of good qualities. He was ridiculing me. He was disgracing me. And he was lending money to others even without taking interest. And that person, let him look to his bond because he is forfeited. He is not able to pay his amount according to the agreement. Where Salarino says, why, I'm sure if he forfeit, thou wilt not take his flesh. What's that good for? Salarino says, well, I'm sure if he forfeit, if he fail to submit his money to you, thou will not take his flesh. You will not cut 1 pound of his flesh. And there Salarino says, what's that good for? If you take 1 pound of flesh from his body, what's that good for? You are not going to get anything from that. It's not something good. What's that good for? So dear students, here we are winding up today. And in the next class, we will see what had happened in the story. What reply Shiloh has given. There he is speaking about common universal humanity. Let's see the speech of Shylock in the next class. Still we meet in the next class with the speech of Shylock. I would like to sign off. Thank you.